The day I planned to reveal my true identity to my girlfriend, I overheard her chatting in French with her best friend. Her friend asked, "If you marry Makoto, what about George?" She replied, "Even though I'll marry Makoto, the one I love will always be George." They both laughed, thinking I was just some poor, clueless guy who couldn't understand French. Little did they know, I was the heir to the richest family in City A, fluent in several languages. My disguise as a penniless commoner was nothing more than an experiment to experience life. Chapter 1. Mom, Dad, I've made my decision. I'm ready to return and take over the family business, I said. Hearing this, my parents were thrilled. But when they thought of the girlfriend I had been hiding my true identity from, they couldn't help but ask, "Is your girlfriend coming with you? You haven't told her the truth yet, have you?" "No, she's not coming." "I'm breaking up with her," I said. Just mentioning Anna made my voice drop. "I'll wrap everything up here within a week." After a few more words, I hung up, put away my phone, and went back into the private room. The place was noisy and crowded, but for a moment the chatter stopped as I walked in. Acting like I hadn't noticed, I went straight to Anna's side and sat down. She looked up from her conversation, giving me a curious glance. "George, what kind of call takes so long?" she asked. Before I could answer, another voice cut in, speaking in French. "Anna, when are you and Makoto planning to get married?" Hearing that, I tightened my grip on my glass until my knuckles turned white. But Anna didn't flinch. She glanced at me briefly before replying in French, "The date my family picked, half a month from now." At her words, everyone in the room turned to look at me. One of her friends raised an eyebrow, her tone playful. "If you're marrying Makoto, what about George? Breaking up?" Anna shook her head. "No." She swirled her wine glass, took a small sip, and added calmly, "Marriage is just to satisfy my family. George is the only one I truly love." Her answer drew laughter from everyone in the room. Teasing words flew around. "Anna, are you really serious? Loving someone so far beneath your station?" Anna turned her gaze to me, her eyes soft with tenderness, as if her silence was enough of an answer. Another friend chimed in with a laugh. "You must be truly smitten." But hey, does he really not understand French? The question was meant as a joke, and it made everyone burst into laughter. "George's family is struggling. Where would he get the money to learn a foreign language?" "Relax, he definitely doesn't understand." Their mockery filled the room, unaware that my breath had quickened and my grip on the glass had whitened my knuckles. I didn't tell them that I understood every single word, because the truth was, I wasn't the penniless nobody they thought I was. I was the sole heir to the wealthiest family in the world. Anna and I had been together for 5 years. She had always treated me well, except for one thing. She never introduced me to her family. I had assumed she was worried about our difference in status. After all, the Lee family was one of the most prominent families in City B. For a long time, I'd planned to tell her the truth, that I was the heir to an enormous fortune, only hiding my identity so I could live freely without my parents' shadow, but fate had other plans. 3 days ago, I stumbled upon a red wedding invitation in her study. The groom was the heir to the Ito family. The bride was Anna. While whispering sweet nothings to me, she had already accepted an arranged marriage. She called me her husband one moment, while preparing to marry someone else the next. In that instant, I realized there was nothing left to say. She would get married. I would inherit my legacy. Both of us would have bright futures, but separately. As the evening wound down and everyone prepared to leave, I followed behind the group in silence. I had barely stepped out of the room when a stranger's voice called out behind me. Young. "Master Wang!" Chapter 2 froze for a moment, then turned around. The person calling me was a former business partner who had always wanted to work with my father. I sighed inwardly. Not wanting to reveal my identity, I was thinking of how to brush him off when one of Anna's friends gave me a mocking look and laughed. Young Master George, with his clothes? Do you think he's even wearing anything worth more than $300 altogether? What a ridiculous joke. Her words set off another round of laughter. They weren't speaking French this time, so I heard every word of their mockery, but I stayed silent. Instead, Anna grew angry, giving the woman a cold, warning glance. The laughter died down instantly. The woman faltered, embarrassed, and the others quickly quieted after receiving the same icy glare. With the laughter gone, the man who had called me didn't press further. I trailed behind Anna silently as we returned home. When we got back, she took off her coat and hung it on the rack before finally speaking. "I won't bring you to these kinds of gatherings anymore," she said. My tone remained calm. Even though this was basically a dismissal from her social circle, I showed no reaction. "Do you think I embarrassed you?" I asked. She chuckled, lightly, teasing, and tried to snuggle into my arms, but I sidestepped her. A hint of helplessness crossed her face as she explained. "What are you thinking?" "I just don't want you to feel hurt," I replied. "But there's a gap between our statuses. Situations like this will keep happening. Hasn't your family pressured you to enter an arranged marriage?" I studied her face, searching for any flicker of guilt. For a split second, Anna froze. Then her expression returned to normal. "George, you only need to know that I love you. I'll handle the rest," she said. If I hadn't been watching closely, I might have missed the tiny crack in her expression. After saying that, Anna went to the bathroom to freshen up. Watching her leave, I stayed silent, my thoughts churning. Was her so-called solution to marry someone her family approved of, while keeping me as her lover on the side? Just then, Anna's phone lit up on the bedside table. The password was no secret to me, so I unlocked it easily and checked the message. It was from Makoto. "Anna, we're meeting both families tomorrow. If you don't stay over tonight, won't the elders suspect our marriage is fake? I know you love your boyfriend, but at least for these few days, could you give me some dignity?" Though his words seemed meek, I saw his intent clearly. First, he used their parents as an excuse to make her stay. Then, step by step, he would escalate. But none of this mattered anymore. I had already decided to leave. With that in mind, I marked the message as unread and returned the phone to its place. Soon after, Anna came out of the bathroom, picked up her phone, and glanced at it. In the next second, she looked at me apologetically. "George, there's an urgent matter at work I need to handle. I won't be home tonight. Get some rest, okay?" She left in a hurry, too distracted to notice my silence, or that I didn't protest like I used to. Instead of grumbling about wanting more time with her, I just watched her walk away. Not long after, my phone buzzed with a new message. "Anna will come to me with just a word. Tomorrow we're meeting the parents. Once we're married, what will you be? Just a hidden lover." Makoto's words stung, but what angered me most was that Anna had handed him the knife he used to hurt me. Even if I hadn't found the wedding invitation, her plans to marry someone else would never have stayed hidden. The day after I discovered the invitation, Makoto added me as a friend. Since then, he'd been sending me taunting messages, photos of Anna helping him try on wedding outfits, choosing rings, visiting the wedding venue. One picture after another shattered any remaining affection I had left for Anna. That night, Anna didn't come home, and I didn't care. The next morning, after a quick wash, I went straight to my office and resigned. By lunchtime, it was finalized. During break, I had lunch with some colleagues downstairs. When I mentioned my resignation, one of them joked, "Lately, I've been seeing videos about people quitting to inherit family businesses. George, did you quit so suddenly because you're going to inherit a family fortune too?" I nodded slightly and said, "That's right, I'm going to inherit the family business." They froze for a moment, then burst out laughing, thinking I was joking. I just smiled and said nothing more. After lunch, I packed my belongings into a box and went home. When I arrived, Anna was already there. Seeing me with the box, she asked curiously, "Did you quit?" I nodded and carried the box to the bedroom. Her brows furrowed as she called out, "You loved that job. Why did you suddenly quit?" I paused, looked at her, and smiled. Because I've found something I want to do even more. Chapter 3, hearing my response, Anna didn't press further. She only said gently, "If the work is too tiring, just come back. Seeing you work so hard every day breaks my heart. George, we have enough money in our family to support both of us." I shook my head firmly. "I'm not a freeloader." Anna looked stunned. "How could you ever be?" I cut her off. "Why are you home so early today? Didn't go to work?" she said softly. "Work's been so busy lately that I haven't had time to spend with you. I wanted to make time for us today." Her frown softened, and she quickly slipped back into the sweet, doting girlfriend I'd always known. "What do you want to do? Shall we have dinner or watch a movie?" In the past, those words would have moved me. I knew how much she carried as the heir to the Lee Corporation. When she carved out time for me, it used to mean the world. But now, I couldn't help but wonder, was she really busy with work, or had it been the wedding preparations that kept her away? How could she plan a wedding with another man while still telling me I was the only one she loved? I didn't expose her lies. There were only a few days left. Soon I would disappear from her life entirely. I shook my head and said instead, "How about helping me with some spring cleaning? There are a lot of old things in the villa that we don't need anymore." Anna agreed. We spent hours sorting through items. By the end, the things I gathered for disposal were all the things we had once bought together as a couple. From mugs to accessories, clothes to slippers, I threw them all away without hesitation. As the pile of discarded couples items grew, Anna's smile began to falter. By the time I threw the last item into the bin, her unease was clear. "George, did you find out something?" she asked nervously. "What could I know? Is there something you're hiding from me?" I raised an eyebrow, turning her question back on her. She averted her eyes, unable to meet mine. After a moment of silence, she grabbed my hand tightly. "George, no matter what happens, just remember, I love you." I smiled faintly, but said nothing more. After cleaning, Anna insisted on going out for a date. Not wanting her to sense anything, I agreed. We had dinner, watched a movie, and eventually ended up at an auction house. Just as we were about to go inside, a man in a sharp suit approached us. Anna's expression flickered for a second, and I noticed immediately. "What's wrong? Did you run into someone you know?" I asked. Before she could reply, the man stopped in front of us, greeting her warmly. Anna quickly made introductions. "This is Makoto, the son of a family friend," she said. After a pause, she added, "And this is my boyfriend, George." The contrast in her introductions was sharp. Makoto's smile faltered, but he quickly recovered and extended a hand toward me. "I've heard a lot about you, Anna's boyfriend. It's a pleasure to finally meet you," he said. Before I could respond, the same group of friends who had mocked me in French the day before showed up, winking at Anna behind my back. It was then I realized this coincidence had been carefully arranged. They had brought Makoto here on purpose. Anger burned inside me, but I knew losing my temper would only make things worse. I forced myself to stay calm. At the auction, Makoto's seat was right next to Anna's. Unlike his provoking texts, in person he was charming and eloquent. When he heard of Anna's interest in porcelain, he eagerly discussed it with her. At first she kept some distance, but soon she leaned closer, engaged in lively conversation. It wasn't until I coughed that Anna seemed to remember I was even there. She turned to me softly. "Are you bored, George? I know you're not interested in these things. If there's anything you like, just bid for it." Before I could reply, the hushed whispers of her friends behind me reached my ears. Though they tried to keep their voices low, we were only separated by one row of seats, and I could hear every word. Anna sure knows how to save face for George. Even if he's interested, what does it matter? He probably doesn't even know how to place a bid. Ha! Exactly. This must be his first time at a high society auction. Chapter 4. The women continued their mocking chatter, occasionally glancing in my direction. Although they pretended to whisper, it felt like they were deliberately speaking loud enough for me to hear. I didn't react. Soon enough, they would be standing respectfully before me, addressing me as young Master Wang. As the previous item was sold, the next piece was brought to the stage, a jade sculpture of longevity cranes and pine trees. The quality of the jade was exceptional, and the auctioneer introduced it as a work by the renowned Chan, the Grand Master of Jade Sculpting. Makoto's excitement was immediate. Raising his bidding paddle, he turned to Anna. "This piece is invaluable, Anna. Your grandmother's birthday is coming up. This would be the perfect gift for her." Hearing the name Chan, I instinctively glanced at the sculpture. One look was enough to tell me all I needed. My voice was calm as I said, "It's fake." Makoto turned to me, disbelief etched on his face. He wanted to retort, to call me a clueless bumpkin, but with Anna seated beside him, he forced a smile. "And how, Mr. Wang, did you come to that conclusion?" "Because the real one was gifted to his grandmother by the Wang family heir," I said plainly. "There is only one such sculpture in the world. The genuine piece resides in my family's collection, which makes the one on stage undoubtedly fake." Though my intention was to save him from making a mistake, my words had the opposite effect. Makoto burst into laughter, and Anna's friends joined in, ridiculing me openly. "George, stop pretending to know what you're talking about." "It's embarrassing," one sneered. "Right. So the real piece was gifted by the Wang family heir? What? Did you crawl under their table and see it yourself? Just because your last name is Wang doesn't mean you're related to them." Their jeering grew louder, only stopping when Anna shot them a cold look. She turned to me, holding my hand as she spoke gently. "George, I know you've been reading books on art appraisal lately, but expertise doesn't come from books alone. Makoto grew up attending auctions and has a deep understanding of jade carving. Naturally, he knows more than you." Her tone was measured, but her words carried the same disbelief as the others. I chuckled softly but said nothing. In the end, Makoto bid an exorbitant 100 million yuan to secure the jade sculpture. As he swiped his card, I couldn't help but smile. I wondered how Anna's grandmother would react when she learned that her family had spent 100 million on a counterfeit sculpture. I didn't stop him or concern myself with it further. Rising from my seat, I excused myself to the restroom. As I washed my hands, a familiar voice sounded behind me. "George, I thought I made myself clear. Yet here you are, shamelessly clinging on. Do you really want to be the third wheel that badly?" The voice was sharp and grating, a far cry from the composed, polished Makoto from earlier. I raised my gaze and turned to face him. "Mr. Ito, let's get one thing straight. I've been with her for 5 years. If anyone's the third wheel here, it's certainly not me." With that, I prepared to leave, but he stepped forward, blocking my path, a cold sneer on his face. "Yes, 5 years," he mocked. "And yet she still won't marry you. Haven't you ever wondered why? I'm the heir to the Ito family, and she's the heir to the Lee Corporation. We're a perfect match. But you? A father who gambles, a sick mother, a broken-down family with nothing to offer. What makes you think you're worthy of her?" I froze briefly. That backstory was something I had fabricated myself, but it surprised me that Anna had shared it with Makoto. I chuckled bitterly, imagining that if my circumstances were truly as pitiful as I'd pretended, Anna would have handed him yet another weapon to wound me. "You're right," I said with a faint smile. "You're the perfect match. I wish you both the best." With those words, I stepped past him and walked away. Moments later, my phone rang. It was my mother. "George, you need to hurry back. Everyone is waiting for you, and we've prepared so many gifts for your return, she gushed. Your father and I bought you a castle overseas. Your aunt got you a diamond watch once worn by a British king, and your uncle? He's filled an entire garage with luxury cars for you. Listening to her rattle off the family's extravagant preparations, I couldn't help but shake my head. Mom, I'm coming back to inherit the family business, not to bankrupt it. Just as I finished speaking, a familiar voice sounded from behind me. What family inheritance? Chapter 5I froze for a moment, instinctively ending the call. I couldn't help but wonder why so many people loved sneaking up behind others to speak unexpectedly. Turning around, I saw Anna's less than pleasant expression. After a brief pause, I explained, "It's nothing. My old colleagues asked what I'd do after resigning, so I joked about going home to inherit the family business." Anna frowned slightly. I wasn't someone who usually joked about such things. She seemed to sense something was off and was about to speak when I stepped forward, calling back to her, "Coming. There are still a few jewelry pieces left to showcase." Hearing this, Anna assumed I was interested in buying some antiques, so she nodded and followed me back to the auction. Once seated, Anna bid on several high-value antique items. After winning, she had them packed and handed over to me. I looked at the boxes in my hands and said softly, "I don't need these things." Anna hugged me with a smile. "You'll get used to it. Don't worry about wasting money. I'll buy you treasures for the rest of our lives." I opened my mouth but ultimately didn't say what I wanted to. I didn't need these cheap trinkets. My collection was priceless. As the auction concluded and attendees began to leave, Anna and I, along with the others, prepared to head out. Everyone had driven separately, so we could have just gone our separate ways. But as soon as Anna and I got into the car, Makoto appeared, tapping on the passenger side window. The window rolled down, and he no longer carried the sharp, mocking tone he'd used in the restroom earlier. "Anna, my car broke down. Could you give me a ride home?" he asked with a smile. Anna frowned, about to decline, when Makoto quickly added, "Your parents did ask me to look after you and spend more time with you, didn't they? You haven't forgotten, have you?" Anna's expression darkened slightly. After a moment's hesitation, she reluctantly agreed. Makoto's smile widened, and he pushed further. "But I get carsick and can't sit in the back. What should we do?" Anna glanced at me, about to speak, but I had already opened the door and moved to the back seat. The fluidity of my movements left her momentarily stunned. By the time she reacted, I was already seated in the back, my eyes closed as if preparing to rest. Anna's words caught in her throat, leaving her visibly uncomfortable. She wanted to say it was just a seat and not worth fussing over, but as she glanced at me in the rearview mirror, I had already shut my eyes. Makoto climbed into the passenger seat, closing the door with a triumphant smile. In his mind, he thought, "George, even if she likes you now, so what? Everything I want will eventually be mine, including her heart. It's only a matter of time." Feeling smug, his tone was unusually soft as he said, "Mr. Wang seems tired. Let him rest for a while." Perhaps sensing my mood, Anna didn't converse much with Makoto. She nodded silently and started the car. At some point, I genuinely fell asleep. When I woke up, the car was parked in the Lee family's garage, and Makoto was nowhere to be seen. Anna touched my face gently. "You're awake. You seem to be sleeping so soundly I didn't want to disturb you." Still groggy, I nodded and opened the car door, stepping out without waiting for her. I walked straight toward the house. Anna quickly got out and caught up with me at the door, blocking my path. "Are you upset? Makoto really is just a family friend. Don't overthink it," she said. I gave a nonchalant hum. Assuming I was still angry, Anna grabbed my hand, her tone soft. "He really is just a family friend. Darling, you know you're the only one I love." She seemed to remember that it had been a while since we'd been intimate. Just as she leaned in to kiss me, I pushed her away. Her shocked expression lingered in my mind as I entered the house. "I'm not feeling well. I'll rest in the bedroom," I said, locking the door behind me, ensuring she couldn't follow. The next morning, we sat in the dining room having breakfast. My phone buzzed, a reminder alarm I had set long ago. The note read, "Meeting the parents." Anna saw the message too. This was part of my original plan to reveal my true identity. I'd suggested that she meet my parents, and she had agreed. Our eyes met, and I was thinking of how to cancel the meeting when her phone rang. It was Makoto. Whatever he said made her expression shift slightly. She turned to me with an apologetic look. "George, something urgent came up. Can we reschedule meeting your parents for another time?" she asked. Chapter 6. Thought Anna might expect me to be upset, but I simply nodded calmly and said, "That works. I have something to take care of today as well." After she left, I headed out too. I went to a mall and bought gifts for the friends I was meeting later. When we met up, everyone unwrapped their boxes, and the sight of brand new luxury items inside elicited gasps of astonishment. "George, where did you get these? They're so authentic." "They are authentic," I replied with a laugh, amused by their disbelief. As they marveled over the gifts, I decided it was time to come clean. The truth is, my backstory about having a gambling father and a sick mother was fabricated. My real identity is that of the sole heir to the wealthiest family. I'm here today to say goodbye because I'm heading home to take over the family business. Their reactions were a mix of shock, amazement, and eventually pure excitement. They erupted in cheers, calling me young master with a fervor that could have lifted the ceiling off the restaurant. Amidst the celebration, someone brought up Anna. "But what about Anna? Does she know your true identity?" The mention of her made my smile fade slightly. "She's planning to marry someone else," I said. "What? No way." My friends were incredulous. Anna, the girl we all thought was the epitome of loyalty and devotion. Exactly. 3 years ago, when you mentioned liking the night-blooming Sirius, she bought out every specimen worldwide just to make you smile. 2 years ago, when you had the flu, she canceled billion-dollar deals to fly back and personally take care of you, staying up all night. And then there was last year's car accident. The truck was heading straight for you, and she swerved the car to shield you, breaking 3 ribs in the process. She spent 3 months in the hospital, nearly losing her life. How could her groom not be you? Hearing them recount those moments left me nostalgic. Back then, Anna's love for me had been all-encompassing, even to the point of self-sacrifice. But now, I shook my head and smiled faintly. She does love me, but her family thinks I'm beneath her. They're forcing her into marriage. Before I had the chance to reveal the truth, the invitations were already printed. From what I can gather, her plan is to make me her lover after the wedding. My friends exploded with outrage. A lover? Are you kidding me? Making the sole heir to the wealthiest family a lover? The Lee family must be insane. She'll regret this. Just wait until she's chasing after him, begging for forgiveness. Another chimed in. Exactly. Once they learn who you are and realize you left quietly, they'll lose their minds. At that moment, Anna and Makoto walked through the door. Overhearing the tail end of our conversation, Anna frowned and asked, "What do you mean by true identity?" Seeing them approach, one of my friends, filled with indignation, was about to speak when I stopped him. I turned to face the pair, my expression cold. "What are you doing here?" Anna's gaze flickered with unease as she avoided eye contact. "Our families have a collaboration, so we arranged to meet and discuss it," she said, her voice uncertain. Her answer made me laugh softly. Of course, I knew the collaboration she was referring to. It was their marriage arrangement. Because of their business discussion, Anna and Makoto didn't join us. Instead, they sat at a nearby table, close enough for me to see every intimate gesture exchanged between them. I watched as he cut her steak, shared his favorite dishes with her, handed her napkins, and even wiped a smudge from her lips. There, interaction was so natural and familiar that my friends fumed with anger, but I remained calm, my expression impassive. Chapter 7. After finishing the meal, we all parted ways, and Anna suggested that Makoto and I head home together. Perhaps learning from the previous incident where we argued over the front seat, Anna decided this time to take the family's extended Rolls-Royce with the chauffeur driving so she wouldn't need to sit in the front passenger seat again. The car glided smoothly toward the Ito family's house. The journey was uneventful. The road ahead was clear. No one expected what happened next. A runaway truck suddenly came hurtling toward us from another direction. The driver instinctively swerved, but a deafening crash followed as the two vehicles collided. Glass shattered. I was thrown hard against the opposite side from the force. Just before losing consciousness, I saw Anna protecting Makoto beside her, shielding him from harm and soothing his panic. My vision blurred, and in that moment, I remembered the car accident my friends had told me about. It was during our 4th year together. Back then, my feelings for her had been at their strongest. At that same intersection, a truck had come speeding toward us, just like now. I had been the one directly in its path. In a moment of fear, Anna realized she couldn't avoid the collision. She swerved, forcing her side of the car to take the brunt of the impact. The front of the car had been crushed, pinning her in the driver's seat. Firefighters and doctors had worked tirelessly for hours to free her. She had nearly died that day. And yet, when she finally woke up, the first thing she asked was about my safety. But now, in the same kind of accident, the difference was clear. This time, she instinctively shielded Makoto, not me. The rear of the extended Rolls-Royce was completely mangled. After everyone had gotten out, Anna, still calming Makoto, finally noticed me. I was silently holding my bleeding forehead, though thankfully my injury wasn't severe. At the hospital, after some treatment, the doctor advised me to stay for observation for 2 days, just because it was a head injury. Anna, seeing the bandages on my head, looked at me with deep guilt. "George, I'm so sorry. I was just thinking about the upcoming collaboration with Makoto, and he couldn't get injured. I only thought about protecting him. You can hit me, shout at me, whatever you want. Just don't ignore me, okay?" Her apology was sincere, and her reasoning seemed understandable, if only I hadn't remembered their wedding, which was just a few weeks away. I didn't respond. I didn't say I forgave her, nor did I say I wouldn't forgive her. My expression stayed blank. Anna kept apologizing, repeating how sorry she was. Then suddenly, her eyes lit up with a glimmer of hope. "Your birthday is coming up in a few days. Can I give you your gift in advance? What do you want for your birthday?" "I'll get it for you." Hearing this, I finally looked up at her, my eyes still emotionless. "Then get me a plane ticket to City A, 3 days from now." She blinked in surprise. "City A? What for?" She seemed caught off guard, but quickly answered her own question. "Do you want to travel there?" I didn't explain. I simply nodded and murmured, Anna didn't press further. She opened her phone and bought the plane ticket to City A right in front of me. Afterward, she said, "I have something to do during this time, so I won't be able to accompany you. You go to City A first, and when I'm free, I'll join you. The plane ticket is a small gift, but I'll make it up to you with a big surprise later." I shook my head and smiled softly. "It's not small at all. After all, this plane ticket is my way home. Anna, thank you for your gift. You're personally sending me home." Chapter 8. During my 2 days in the hospital, Anna seemed to return to the attentive, loving girlfriend she had been when we first started dating. But the illusion ended the moment I was discharged. She claimed she had work to do and arranged for the driver to take me home. Not long after, I received a taunting message from Makoto. "Sorry, Anna and I are about to get married. She's accompanying me to my family's estate for dinner today, so I'm afraid she doesn't have time to pick you up. I ignored the message and quietly returned home to start packing my luggage. On the day of my departure, I woke up early. 7 hours before my flight, I began carrying my suitcases to the door. Just as I was finishing, Anna returned. Her eyes fell on the pile of suitcases, and for a brief moment, panic flickered across her face. "What's going on?" she asked. "I told you I was going to City A, didn't I? You even bought the ticket for me, did you forget?" I replied calmly, as if I were just planning a vacation, but my explanation didn't convince her. "Wasn't it just for a day or two? Do you really need this much luggage?" I curved my lips into a faint smile. "I brought extra clothes. I want to take more pictures this time." She knew I'd never cared much for photos before. Even when we traveled, I never brought so much. Her unease grew, spreading through her like wildfire. She looked like she wanted to open my suitcases right then and there to check, but just as she moved to do so, her phone rang, cutting through the tension. It was Makoto. Whatever he said made her pause. Then, without another word, she left. Before going, she turned back. "George, don't stay too long. Send me your return flight details and I'll pick you up." I didn't answer, because I knew I wasn't coming back. This departure was our final goodbye. 5 hours before my flight, I changed the villa's Dr. Code. From my birthday, I reset it to Makoto's. I left a sticky note on the door that read, "Since this will soon be Mr. Ito's home, it's only fitting the code should be set to his birthday." 3 hours before my flight, I gathered every photo of Anna and me in the villa. One by one, I burned them in the fire pit. I remembered the kisses we shared beneath fireworks, the countless times I told her she was mine. I remembered confessing my love under the stars, swearing I'd love her for all eternity. She once took the full impact of a car accident to protect me, breaking 3 ribs. Her social media had been filled with pictures of us. We walked through spring, summer, autumn, and winter together. But now, as the memories turned to ashes, it was all over. 2 hours before my flight, my phone buzzed. A video from Makoto. It was a family gathering. Anna's friends, Makoto's brothers, their parents, all present. The camera focused on Anna and Makoto as the crowd cheered. "Kiss! Kiss!" someone teased. "Come on, Anna. You're getting married in a few days. What's there to be shy about?" Makoto, cheeks flushed, closed his eyes and leaned in. The cheers grew louder. Anna hesitated, staring at him for a long moment before finally closing her eyes. She wrapped her arms around his neck and stood on tiptoe. The video ended. A message from Makoto followed. "See that? I'm the husband the Lee family has chosen for her. With your pathetic family background, you're no match. You'd be lucky to marry a beggar, let alone Anna. Even if she loves you, her defenses are crumbling. First, she met my family. Then she moved in with me. And just now, she kissed me. Tell me, how much longer before she's in my bed?" I didn't reply. Instead, I printed every mocking message he'd sent over the past few days. I stacked them neatly in the empty living room. 1 hour before my flight, I added one final note on top. "Anna, congratulations on your wedding. We're done." Then I dragged my suitcases out, hailed a cab, and sped toward the airport. "Anna, from this moment on, I will return to being the heir of the wealthiest family. You and I are done." Chapter 9. At the airport in City A, I stepped out, dragging my suitcase. A sleek Bugatti, clearly worth a fortune, was already waiting. As I approached, a man by the car opened the door for me. "Young master, please get in." My luggage was loaded into the car. Settling into the seat, I naturally began chatting with the driver. "Martin, why are you here to pick me up? Where's the family driver?" Martin chuckled, the fine lines at the corners of his eyes adding warmth. The car merged smoothly into traffic as he replied, "It's been years since you've been back, young master. When I heard you were returning today, I volunteered to take the job myself. I smiled teasingly. Looks like you missed me, Martin. With a light laugh, I shifted the topic. How have my parents been all these years? Martin had served the Wang family for decades, practically raising me. He felt more like family than an employee. I did miss you, he admitted. Master and Madam are doing well, healthy and happy, though they've missed you terribly. That's about all. We chatted along the way. By the time we reached the Wang family villa, I already had a good idea of how things had been at home during my absence. I stepped out and headed inside. At the entrance, a row of servants greeted me in unison. "Welcome home, young master." I rubbed my forehead, mildly exasperated. Martin, pushing my suitcase, handed it off to the servants, who carried it upstairs. Noticing my expression, he chuckled. "Master and Madam are sticklers for ceremony. When they heard you were coming back, they trained the staff overnight to prepare this welcome. They're all waiting in the living room." I nodded, finding it over the top, but said nothing to dampen their mood. Instead, I headed straight to the living room. As expected, it was packed. My parents, aunts, uncles, all gathered. I greeted them individually before sitting beside my parents. Their concerned expressions pierced through my usual composure, stirring emotions I couldn't quite suppress. A wave of frustration welled up. I'd been doted on all my life, never knowing hardship, until I chose to hide my identity and venture, to City B for growth. There, I met Anna. During our 5 years, I gave her everything, believing we'd spend our lives together. I was certain we'd be each other's one and only, but in the end, I nearly became her secret lover, without realizing it. My devotion had been for nothing. Noticing my mood, my mother placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "What's done is done. The past is the past. The one thing our family doesn't fear is mistakes. When things fall apart, we start over. We're never short on second chances." Her words eased me. The others quickly shifted the topic, bringing out the gifts they had prepared. I soon realized my mother's earlier phone call had been anything but exaggerated. It had actually been understated. Property deeds, keys, and more covered the table. At the center was a stunning diamond watch, crafted from gold and adorned with massive diamonds, every detail screaming luxury. Yet they still weren't satisfied, intent on covering every inch of the table with gifts. Just as I was about to tell them it was unnecessary, my aunt clapped her hands, eyes lighting up. "George just got out of a relationship, didn't he? Perfect timing. I have a friend whose daughter just returned from abroad. She's stunning. Why don't you two meet? Could be just as friends at first." Chapter 10. I was stunned and quickly waved my hands to refuse. But my aunt ignored me, handing me a contact on her phone. "She's a lovely girl. I met her before she went abroad. Stunning. Even if nothing romantic happens, she'd make a great friend," my aunt insisted. Unable to turn her down, I agreed. What I didn't expect was that, when I opened the contact, I realized I was already friends with her on my phone. I tapped into her profile. A simple black moon icon against a dark background, and a minimal nickname of just 2 letters. Puzzled, I tried to recall how or when I had added her, but nothing came to mind. I didn't ask. Quietly, I turned off my phone, deciding the answers would come naturally when we met. While I was preparing for this meeting, Anna finally returned home. It was already dark, the villa shrouded in shadows. She didn't notice the note stuck to the door at first. She entered her usual password, but the door wouldn't open. Confused, she looked up and saw the note. "Since this will soon be Mr. Ito's home, it's only fitting the code should be set to his birthday." Her heart skipped. Ito's home. Makoto. A chill spread through her. Could George have found out? But how? She and Makoto had only met once, and no one else would have told him about the engagement. Where could he have learned of her plans to marry Makoto? Hesitant, she entered Makoto's birthday as the code. The door unlocked. Inside, she turned on the lights. The villa was empty. Instinctively, she called out, "George?" Her voice echoed, but no reply came. Then she remembered George had gone to City A 2 days ago. He rarely left her for long. Most of the time, he waited at home for her. Since moving in together, this was the first time he hadn't been there when she returned. A sinking feeling weighed on her chest. Could he really be serious about leaving? No, she dismissed the thought. Impossible. George loved her too much. He was probably just upset that she hadn't spent time with him lately. Maybe he'd guessed something about her and Makoto and was sulking. But eventually he would come back. She would apologize, and everything would be fine. Determined, she bit her lip and walked toward the living room, planning to call him later to ask when he'd return. But when she reached the room, her eyes fell on a stack of papers on the table. Her steps quickened. Sitting down, she picked them up with curiosity. In her heart, she hoped they were from George. A note, maybe. See? He's just being dramatic, she thought. He wouldn't really leave me. A faint smile tugged at her lips until she read the handwritten note on top. It was unmistakably George's handwriting. Beautiful, precise, almost artistic. But the words struck her like a hammer. Anna, congratulations on your wedding. We're done. Her ears buzzed. Her mind went blank. She read it again and again, hoping she had misunderstood. But no, the words didn't change. He's leaving. Me? No, impossible. Desperation gripped her. She ripped the note from the stack, crumpled it, and threw it away. But this revealed the next page, a printed screenshot of a conversation. Anna froze. The profile picture, the nickname, Makoto. The first message was sent 2 weeks ago. So you're the lover Anna keeps hidden? Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Makoto, her fiancé. You'd better know your place and leave. When Anna and I are married, it'll be embarrassing for you to be kicked out of the villa. Whenever I call, Anna comes to me. Tomorrow, we're meeting each other's parents. Once we're married, what will you be? Just a secret lover? She loves you, so what? She already kissed me. How much longer until we end up in bed together, Flapper? Among the messages were photos and videos. Anna and Makoto trying on wedding outfits, choosing rings, visiting the venue. One video had been paused at the most damning frame, Makoto leaning in to kiss Anna as she wrapped her arms around his neck. Her hands trembled as she flipped through page after page, her heart sinking deeper. George knew everything. Chapter 11. It was the image of her and Makoto, surrounded by family and friends, locked in a kiss, as though it were the ultimate declaration of love. The fragile thread in Anna's mind finally snapped. A wave of silent panic washed over her. Her face went pale as she mumbled, "I don't believe it," over and over again. Stumbling toward the staircase, her legs trembled and felt weak. As she climbed, her foot slipped, and with a heavy thud, she tumbled down the steps. The sharp pain jolted her back to reality. Gritting her teeth, she grabbed the handrail and hauled herself up, hobbling slowly toward the bedroom. This time she moved with caution. No more accidents. When she finally reached the bedroom and pushed the door open, she froze. The room was empty. Everything that had belonged to George was gone. Even the photo frames on the nightstands, once filled with pictures of them together, were now bare. The frames sat in their usual places, but the photos had vanished. Panic filled Anna's eyes as the truth sank in. She yanked open the closet, then the drawers. After rummaging through her own things, all she found was emptiness where George's belongings had once been. She searched every corner of the villa, the bedroom, bathroom, study, everywhere. Not a single trace of George remained. Her mind flashed back to when George had casually suggested they do a spring cleaning, throwing out every couple's item they owned. Now she understood. He had been preparing for this moment. Cutting ties, erasing every memory of them. The emptiness inside her grew heavier, pressing down until it felt like she couldn't breathe. She couldn't accept it. After 5 years together, after everything they had shared, he had walked away so mercilessly, leaving only with his own belongings. Her disbelief shifted into desperation. She needed to see him, to ask him why. Before she realized it, she was already back in the living room, trembling fingers dialing his number. The long beeping tone echoed in her ears. The phone rang endlessly before he finally answered. His voice was heavy with sleep, groggy, as though he hadn't checked the caller ID. "Who is this?" "George, it's me. Anna." Her voice shook. Afraid he might hang up, thinking it was some prank, she rushed to add, "Where are you? I want to see you. Where are our photos?" Her voice snapped George fully awake. Glancing at the screen, he saw her name glowing back at him. He let out a deep sigh, realizing his mistake. "I forgot to block her number." Chapter 12. In the brief silence that followed, Anna kept calling his name again and again, her persistence grating on his nerves. "Anna," he said curtly, "you're about to get married. Some boundaries should be respected. As for the photos, I burned them. When Mr. Ito moves into the villa, I doubt he'd want to see such things. Meeting up is unnecessary, too. You're about to marry someone else, so why would you want to see your ex-boyfriend?" The moment Anna heard he had burned the photos, her heart shattered. But it wasn't just the loss of the photos, it was the finality in his rejection that tore her apart. "George, I never agreed to break up," she blurted hastily, her voice trembling. "It's not what you think with Makoto. The only person I love is you. How could you abandon me like this?" Her voice broke, and he could hear her crying softly. Anna rarely cried. In their 5 years together, George had only seen her cry once, after the car accident. She had been the one gravely injured, yet she wept uncontrollably when she saw his unavoidable wounds, her composure shattering completely. This was only the second time. George had never doubted the love Anna once had for him. It was precisely because he had seen its depth that he could recognize the moment it began to waver. She might still love him, but he was no longer the only one she loved. That was why, when choices had to be made, he was always the first to be sacrificed, whether it was her secretly considering making him her lover or instinctively saving Makoto during the accident. He was no longer her priority. So even as he listened to her sobs, even as he felt her sadness, his heart stayed unmoved. "Anna," he said evenly, "we broke up. Breaking up doesn't require mutual agreement. And if anyone abandoned this relationship, it was you. You gave up on us first. How can you accuse me of abandoning you now? Let me make this clear. We are over. Don't contact me again." Each word cut through her heart like a dagger. "George," she whispered, eyes brimming with sorrow. But before she could say more, the line went dead. He had hung up. When she tried to call him back, her calls no longer went through. She was blocked. Every other way she tried to reach him ended the same, her messages bouncing back with a red exclamation mark. Defeated, Anna collapsed onto the couch. Her gaze landed on the stack of papers sitting on the table. Her sadness twisted into anger. With a sudden swipe, she knocked the papers into the air, scattering them across the table, the couch, and the floor. Pages drifted down like feathers with a rustling sound. Makoto. This is all Makoto's fault. If he hadn't meddled, George wouldn't have left so decisively. The final page landed in front of her. On it was the last message Makoto had sent George. "So what if he loves you? You've already kissed me. How much longer until we're in bed together?" Anna's eyes darkened as she read the words, her gaze turning cold and unwavering. After a long silence, a bitter laugh escaped her lips. Her lifeless eyes flashed with sudden viciousness. "Makoto," she whispered, "I told you long ago, the only person I'll ever love is George. How dare you go after him? Since you're so eager to get married, why don't I prepare you a wedding gift?" Chapter 13. Unaware of Anna's thoughts, George calmly blocked her number along with every other way she could reach him. Once finished, he set his phone aside and drifted into the most peaceful sleep he'd had in a long time. The next day marked his first day at Wang Group, and he rose early. Though confident in his abilities, he was determined to avoid giving anyone reason to criticize him, especially on his first day. Wang Group was a century-old family business, its influence spanning fashion, luxury goods, jewelry, fragrances, cosmetics, skincare, and even household items. Not only did the company have a presence in these industries, it led them. George had originally planned to start small within one of the lesser-known brands, building his way up. But his parents insisted he was capable of far greater responsibilities and placed him directly into the CEO position. By the time he officially assumed the role, news of a young, dashing CEO parachuting into Wang Group had already spread across the industry. While George stepped into a new chapter of his life, Anna drowned her sorrows at City B's largest club with her friends. Though they knew George had broken up with her after discovering her engagement to Makoto, none of them believed it would last. One sneered, "He's just upset about being sidelined. Breaking up was probably a rash move. Didn't he quit his job recently?" "Don't worry, Anna. Once he burns through his savings, he'll come crawling back. After all, who else will clean up after his gambling father and sickly mother?" "Exactly," another chimed in. "Guys like him, wannabe gold diggers, always dream of marrying up. Give it time. He'll beg to return." Did he really think he could be your husband? He should be grateful for the luxuries he's had with you, things he never would have dreamed of without you. Their mocking voices were relentless. Even Anna, who had been quietly drinking, found their words unbearable. Her face darkened, and suddenly, smash, she shattered her glass against the table. Shards flew, the sharp sound silencing the room. In the stunned quiet, Anna's icy voice cut through. "Have you said enough?" Her friends froze, staring. They had never seen her like this. It wasn't the first time they had insulted George, even in front of her, and she had never defended him before. So why now? Maria, sitting closest to Anna, was the first to break the silence. Frowning, she brushed off Anna's outburst with a mocking chuckle. "What's wrong, Anna? Still upset? We know you care, but let's be real. He'll never let go of someone as rich as you. He'll come crawling back in 2 weeks, then it'll be up to you to decide what to do with him." The moment she finished, Anna's head snapped up. Her glare was sharp, her voice like ice. "Apologize?" Maria froze, stunned. "Apologize to him?" Anna repeated, cold and unyielding. Only then did Maria realize Anna's anger was genuine. But she tried to laugh it off. "Anna, come on. Why are you so worked up? We're not wrong, are we? He's just a poor man who latched onto you for money. You didn't argue before when we said the same things." Chapter 14, Maria's words struck Anna like a blow. The sharpness in her eyes wavered, replaced by confusion. So, they had said these things before, and she had stayed silent? Anna searched her memory, replaying every moment. She realized Maria was right. This wasn't the first time her friends had mocked George. Whether he was absent or present but unable to understand their French, she had let it slide. Only when they directly mocked him in front of him had she objected. And even then, her protests were half-hearted, more for show than from real conviction. The realization crushed her. Her silence had mirrored her true thoughts back then. Her chest tightened. At a loss for words, she grabbed another drink and downed it. One glass after another, and yet, amid the guilt and regret, a flicker of hope remained. George's gambling father, his sick mother, his unemployment, maybe given time, he really would come back to her. Meanwhile, her friends had already moved on in their chatter. "Did you hear about Wang Group? They've just appointed a new CEO," one said. "I heard it's the Wang family's eldest son," another added. Apparently, he's been away for years training himself. Now that he's back, they handed him the company. Well, he's their only heir. It makes sense. He's probably been groomed his whole life for it. Honestly, some people are just born into privilege. Even with the same last name, the difference in people's lives can be staggering. Anna sat silent, drowning in thoughts as the empty bottles piled up. She paid no attention to the mention of the Wang heir's return. She didn't realize George's departure, along with the note he left her, was not just an outburst of anger, but the truth. By the time the gathering ended, it was late. Anna had drunk so much she could barely stand. Maria, worried, called Makoto to pick her up. When Makoto arrived, only Maria remained with Anna, who was slumped over and barely conscious. Handing Anna to him with a teasing smile, Maria said, "Take good care of her, brother-in-law. Make sure she gets home safely." She shot him a knowing look, then left, leaving Makoto alone with Anna. Instead of taking her back to the Lee villa, he brought her to his own. Carrying her into the bedroom, he laid her gently on the soft bed, wiped her face, tucked her in, then lay down beside her. "Anna," he whispered, "we're getting married anyway. What's the harm in moving things forward a little?" He leaned closer, but just as the tension peaked, Anna stirred. She pressed herself against him, nestling into his neck. Her warm breath brushed against his skin, sending shivers through him. The atmosphere thickened with heat, until the next words froze him in place. "George," she murmured, clinging to him as though terrified of losing the man she truly wanted. Makoto's face darkened. He stayed still, his mind racing, his eyes glinting with venom. George, always George. If only George disappeared from this world for good. Chapter 15. Anna woke with a pounding headache, instinctively rubbing her temples. But as soon as she sensed another presence beside her, her hand froze. Turning, she saw brown-dyed hair and, without thinking, blurted out, "George!" The instant the name left her lips, she realized something was wrong. George was still in City A. He had ended things just days ago. There was no way he'd be here, least of all with dyed hair, something he'd never done. Dread crept over her. She shoved the man beside her with sudden force. Startled, he tumbled off the bed with a loud thud. "Makoto!" she hissed, glaring at him coldly. "What are you doing here?" Her icy voice made his face flush with embarrassment and frustration. If it were anyone else, her disdain might have turned into pity. Even the old Anna, before George left, might have softened. But not now. Not after she had read every word of his cruel taunts to George. Seeing no sympathy in her eyes, Makoto swallowed his irritation and tried to explain quickly. "You were drunk last night. You wouldn't let me take you back to the villa, so I had no choice but to bring you here." Only then did Anna notice she wasn't in her own bedroom. Her anger eased slightly, though suspicion still clouded her eyes. "Then why were you sleeping next to me?" Makoto's face burned. "Red," he stammered. I planned to leave after settling you in, but you wouldn't let go of me." His hesitant tone only made Anna's gaze darken. Whether or not she believed him, she said nothing. She rose, her cold stare fixed on him, then turned toward the door. Pausing at the threshold, she bit her lip and said flatly, "Makoto, stop playing games. The only reason we're getting married is because you're obedient and easy for my parents to control. Try this again, and I won't hesitate to replace you." Her words left Makoto's jaw clenched, his face twisted with barely restrained rage. Meanwhile, in City A, George glanced at yet another unknown number flashing across his phone. For the first time, he compared Anna to a leech, relentless, refusing to let go. After blocking her number, there had been blessed silence for a time, but recently, she had begun calling from new numbers, one after another. Each time he blocked one, another appeared. With a sigh, he disconnected yet another call and blocked it. Finally, silence. Setting his phone on silent and face down on the desk, He turned back to the documents in front of him. This project was the first major undertaking since he joined Wang Group. If he secured it, it would cement his place among upper management. He had accepted the challenge without hesitation, only to discover Anna had unexpectedly joined the bidding as well. He wasn't afraid to face her. What puzzled him was her motive. The Lee family's influence was in City B. Why would Anna suddenly come after a project in City A because of him? The thought made him chuckle darkly. Did Anna think this was some grand romantic gesture, balancing wedding plans with one man while clinging to another? Was this her version of love, and she still had the nerve to claim things with Makoto weren't what he thought? But even if she didn't love Makoto, what did it matter? Makoto was her choice. She agreed to the engagement herself. Whether George was heir to the richest family or just an ordinary man, she had no right to downgrade him from legitimate boyfriend to secret lover. Chapter 16, the bidding competition was fierce. Not only Wang Group, but nearly all top conglomerates in City A were involved. It wasn't unusual for competitors from other cities, like Anna, to join. Given the scale, the organizers held a banquet, inviting all participants. When George's aunt handed him the invitation, she gave him a sly wink. Confused, he asked, "Auntie, is there something else I should know?" Rolling her eyes, she patted his shoulder. "Don't tell me you've forgotten. I mentioned my friend's daughter before. I suggested you meet her. She's been busy, but guess what? She's also attending this banquet for the bidding. Perfect timing for you two to meet." Hearing it was about matchmaking again, I was momentarily speechless. Given the setting, I couldn't help but laugh awkwardly. "Auntie," I said, "this is a bidding event. That makes us competitors. Who arranges a blind date between competitors during a bidding event? You're really one of a kind." I gave her a playful thumbs up, but my aunt wasn't the least bit concerned. "So what?" she replied. "Being opponents in business doesn't mean you can't connect personally. Besides, if you meet her first, maybe you can use a bit of charm to your advantage. I've heard that while she's never dated anyone, she once had a crush on someone. Guess what? He's your type." I froze for a moment. It reminded me of the last time I checked the contact she had shared with me. I'd discovered that the girl and I were already friends online, but because there was no need to send a friend request, I had completely forgotten about her afterward and never reached out. Now my aunt's reminder brought her back to mind. She likes someone like me, and she's already added me as a friend? Was that why she added me in the first place? I frowned slightly, and my impression of her dropped a notch. It seemed less like she wasn't interested in finding a boyfriend and more like she couldn't let go of the person she once liked. Wouldn't meeting her now feel like volunteering to be someone's stand-in? I didn't mention my doubts to my aunt, who had no idea about the history. Instead, I gave her a perfunctory smile, accepted the invitation, and felt indifferent about the meeting. I thought my silence would be taken as a polite refusal, but my aunt must have interpreted it as consent. On the day of the bidding, she sent a car to wait outside the Wang family villa. "Hello, Mr. Wang." The woman was dressed in an elegant Chanel suit and approached me as I stepped out. I stopped in front of her, not taking another step forward. "I don't believe I've asked for your name," I said. She hesitated, her eyes dropping for a moment as if to hide a flicker of disappointment. After a brief pause, she replied, "Willow. My last name is Liu." Satisfied with her answer, I didn't prolong the awkwardness. When she gestured toward the car, I followed her and got into the passenger seat. Once inside, I remained silent, my gaze fixed on the passing scenery outside the window. Yet her name lingered in my mind, repeating itself over and over. There was something oddly familiar about it, though I couldn't place why. I stole a glance at her, noticing how focused she was on driving. She seemed to want to say something, but hesitated. After a moment of indecision, she stayed quiet, and so did I. Before long, we arrived at the banquet hall. We stepped out of the car, and I began walking toward the entrance, assuming she would follow. But when I glanced back, I saw her standing still with a dazed expression. "What's wrong?" I asked. She pressed her lips together, then met my gaze and said, "Most people walk in arm with their dates." Chapter 17. For some reason, even though Willow's face remained neutral, I thought I caught a trace of disappointment in her expression. I cleared my throat, trying to dispel the awkwardness, and walked back to her. Taking her arm gently, I led her toward the banquet hall. As we neared the entrance, curiosity got the better of me, and I asked, "Have we met before?" The flicker of sadness in Willow's eyes deepened. "He doesn't remember me at all," she thought. For a moment, I thought she wouldn't answer, but finally she broke the silence. "We were classmates in high school," she said softly. "I was the one who always sat in the corner." Her words carried a quiet weight, drawing me into a past I had almost forgotten. Back in high school, Willow had been the reserved one, always keeping to herself. Her classmates rarely noticed her, and even her parents, often busy with their careers, paid little attention to her. Living in her own world, Willow rarely interacted with others. Despite her striking appearance, she was easily overlooked, just as I had overlooked her until now. But Willow had noticed me. She liked me from the moment I approached her differently than others. While most classmates barely acknowledged her presence, I made a point to include her, never skipping her during group discussions or activities. I had become the most frequent figure in her otherwise isolated world, the only light in her life. But her shyness held her back. At graduation, she managed only to add me as a friend through our shared classmate directory. Despite wanting to talk to me, she never sent a single message. Years later, while studying abroad and undergoing therapy, she learned through mutual acquaintances that I was in a relationship. Heartbroken, she decided she would remain a silent observer in my life, content as long as I was happy. But when she heard about my breakup, hope rekindled within her, and so she returned. Hearing Willow's explanation, fragments of memory resurfaced. I recalled the quiet girl who always sat at the edge of the classroom. Yet looking at her now, poised and composed at such a high-profile event, I found it hard to reconcile the girl she had been with the woman she had become. "You've changed a lot," I said, unable to hide my surprise. "You're even more beautiful now." Her cheeks turned red, and she averted her eyes shyly. The banquet hall buzzed with energy. People milled about, chatting and networking. We had just stepped inside when the sound of hurried footsteps behind us caught my attention. I turned instinctively, only to lock eyes with two figures entering the hall. "George!" The simultaneous exclamation drew the attention of everyone in the room. Ito, Makoto, and Anna. Their dramatic outburst left me frowning. Despite being from two of City B's most prominent families, their lack of decorum was glaring. How could they act so unsophisticated at such a formal event? Unwilling to engage, I turned back to Willow. Taking her hand firmly, I quickened my pace, guiding her deeper into the crowd and away from the pair at the entrance. Just then, my phone rang again. This time it was another unfamiliar number. After a brief hesitation, I answered. "George," came a familiar voice, calm and reassuring. "Are you okay? Don't let what's online get to you. I know you didn't do any of those things, and you shouldn't be upset over baseless accusations. I believe my parents are already dealing with this, but if there's anything I can help with, please don't hesitate to let me know." Chapter 21. Hearing the gentle urgency in Willow's voice, I felt the frustration in my chest dissolve. A faint smile tugged at my lips as I replied, "It's all right. I'm not that fragile. It's just a rumor. I can handle it myself." "Okay," she responded softly. Noticing that my tone was light-hearted, Willow seemed to relax, yet she lingered on the call, hesitant to hang up, but unsure of what more to say. Silence enveloped us, the quiet so profound that I could almost hear her steady, shallow breathing through the line. Eventually, I broke the stillness. "Willow, thank you," I said sincerely. Though the rumors didn't truly faze me, her concern touched me deeply. I kept that last thought to myself before quickly ending the call. On her end, Willow stared at the now silent phone, feeling as though time had passed too quickly. When my parents first learned about the online abuse I was receiving, they were furious, nearly ready to personally confront Anna, Makoto, and their meddlesome friends. My father was livid. "A shameless man and a treacherous woman. They don't know their place, throwing dirt on my son's name. Truly ignorant fools daring to provoke the Wang family." My mother wasn't far behind, rolling her eyes dramatically. "Ignorant fools? More like downright animals. How dare they?" It took some effort to calm them down, and seeing their fiery indignation left me both amused and exasperated. "Relax, Mom, Dad," I said with a grin. "Trust me, I won't let them get away with it. They spread lies, so they'll have to pay the price for it." Meanwhile, in City B at the Ito family estate, Anna sat with a dark cloud over her face. Her gaze bore into Makoto, who sat sobbing uncontrollably before her, his pitiful appearance only fueling her irritation. Her voice was sharp and scornful. "How many times have I told you to keep your schemes in check? I thought you might still have some use, but you've got some nerve-roping in Maria and the others to smear George. Do you know what a mess you've made?" Makoto shook his head frantically, tears streaming, but it did nothing to stir her sympathy. "Anna," Makoto stammered, "George is nothing but a fraud. He lied to you for 5 years, pretending to be poor when he's the heir to the Wang fortune. And now that we've crossed him, do you really think he'll let us off easily? Instead of waiting for him to retaliate, why not join forces and bring Wang Group to its knees?" His words caused a flicker of thought to cross Anna's face, her expression softening slightly. Yes, George had deceived her for 5 years, pretending to be someone he wasn't. If she had known his true identity, she wouldn't have needed to agree to any arranged marriage. She had accepted him despite the fake identity he had concocted, and kept him close. And what did he do in return? He used the first opportunity to cut ties, leaving her to face humiliation and loss. Why should she protect his lofty reputation? Let him fall. Once he hit rock bottom, wouldn't he come crawling back to her? After all, he'd already discarded everything they had shared, burning and throwing away all traces of their past. If they stuck to their story and painted him as a scoundrel, wouldn't the world believe it? He'd be left with no choice but to live under the label of a cheater while his fortune crumbled. Anna's gaze shifted back to Makoto, and this time there was a hint of approval in her eyes. "Then you'd better work harder," she said coldly. "Make sure you drag him down from his position as the richest heir." With that, she turned on her heels and left Makoto's villa without looking back.